Welcome to my recap. As the story continues, we see that Cain is fighting with a dragon and easily defeats it. When he checks his status, he is shocked to see that his magic power is over 80 million and he has received the titles Enemy of All Monsters and Dragon Killer. After that, we jump ahead 2 years. Cain is now 10 years old, and they head to the royal capital for Cain's debut, which is a mandatory event for all noble sons. His father tells him that their journey will take 1 week if no monsters get in the way. Cain uses his GPS power, and finds out that there are monsters attacking people 3 kilometers away. He tells Garm, who speeds up their journey. But Cain knows they won't arrive in time, so he jumps out, casts a boost spell, and rushes ahead to protect the people as a noble hero. Meanwhile, the monsters are about to wipe out the people, and a soldier desperately tries to protect the royal carriage. A monster approaches the carriage, but Cain suddenly appears. He starts attacking the monsters, and wipes them out. He checks up on everyone, introducing himself as the son of Garm and uses a healing spell to help the soldiers recover. However, some of the soldiers didn't make it, so he stored their bodies in his item box. Just then Garm arrives to help them, but he realizes that he is completely useless. The door of the royal carriage opens, revealing 2 girls, Princess Telestia and Miss Silk, the Duke's daughter. They introduce themselves to the ladies, and the princess collapses from the stress. Cain casts a spell to help them relax, and they now seem a bit too relaxed. I wonder if he added something else to his magic. They thank him and are already fighting over him. I wonder if Cain has other such spells to keep the girls satisfied. Cain mentions his debut in the royal capital, and the girls reveal they will also be debuting and want him to travel with them. As they travel, Cain finds himself sandwiched between the 2 girls in the royal carriage. He attempts to slip away to move to another seat, but the girls won't let him go. They arrive at a town and the girls want Cain to be their teddy bear for the night because they feel safer around him. Garm objects to the girls sharing a room with Cain, but they insist citing trauma from the recent attack. Cain agrees under the condition that the room should be huge. They go to their rooms, but Cain realizes that the beds are too close together. The girls want Cain to sleep in the middle, and they move the beds closer together. But this was not enough, so they decided to use Cain as their body pillow all night. Looks like Cain's harem started at the age of 10, but he realizes that being single is way better as he was sleep deprived for a few nights. As they arrive at the royal capital, when they exit their carriage, they are greeted by the vice captain, Cain von Silford. He thanks Cain for saving the girls and his men. Cain takes out the guards' bodies from his item box to show everyone that they courageously fought orcs to protect the girls. He is about to leave, but Silford grabs onto him, telling him that he will have an audience with the king. He is taken to the king's hall, where he meets the king. The king tells everyone that Cain saved the carriage by defeating the group of orcs. The king acknowledges his heroic act, saying that the girls wouldn't have survived without him. As a reward he makes Cain a baron, giving him his own mansion along with 10 platinum coins. A noble fatso named Corgino objects, saying Cain is too young to be a baron. The king, however, points out that he couldn't perform the same feats that Cain has accomplished, so Corgino backs off. Cain reluctantly accepts the title of baron, and the king concludes the audience, telling him to go backstage. We see Cain in a room with his father, who comments that Cain is the first of his sons to be promoted. The king joins them, thanking Cain for saving his daughter. The king feels the need to thank Cain as a father, and Cain is overwhelmed by their gratitude. The king tells Cain that because he's excellent in both magic and swordsmanship, and has the god's blessing, the kingdom can't let such a talented child go on his own. That's why he has given him the title of baron, and is even asking him to marry Princess Telestia. The Duke, Eric von Santana Mailbeek, also wants him to marry his daughter, Silk. Cain is shocked, but the girls are happy. The king explains that Cain will now be engaged to both girls, and will be married once they reach adulthood. It is because he has slept with both of them. However, we learn that this was all part of their plan to keep Cain in the kingdom. Poor Cain has been caught in their trap, and has no choice but to accept the engagement. The girls express their happiness, and mention that they will never forget the threesome they had during those nights. Cain explains that they are referring to the different positions that had to do, which leads to further misunderstanding by the king and duke, but he meant the position of the beds. Later, we see Cain's sister is upset with him starting his harem without her, and Garm mentions his embarrassment when the king asked him about Cain being a playboy. A few days later, Cain visited the church to meet with the gods. He wants to consult about his stats, which are too overwhelming. Xenon tells him that his current numbers are inhuman, and asks if he would like to be a demigod, which are of the same class as divine beast and holy dragon. He tells him even with this status there are limits to his power, and warns him not to test those limits. He then asks Cain if he would create some entertainment for them based on his previous life, and Cain thinks of a perfect game. The gods who can hear his thoughts ask him to create something like that. Later we see that Cain is forced to go shopping with his mom and sis, but he is so bored, and since he has no intention of siscon development, he escapes from there. Outside he recognizes a familiar cat ears and realizes that he doesn't have a cat girl in his harem yet. The cat girl is Parma, whom he saved 5 years ago. She introduces him to her uncle Tamanis, and tells him that she's training in his shop. Cain expresses interest in seeing his shop and is amazed by all kinds of things they have there. He asks Tamanis if he can make a special order for him, and shows Tamanis a blueprint of the game. Tamanis thinks this is a great concept and would be an instant hit. He asks him to create a prototype and pays a full gold coin. Tamanis couldn't accept such a high payment, so Cain tells him that he should treat it like an upfront investment. Tamanis promises to take this project as his top priority. Cain is glad and leaves the store, but he is shocked to see his sister waiting outside. She's angry that Cain left without telling her, and she needed his opinion on her outfit. He tries to butter her up by telling she would look cute in all of them. She's flattered, and decides to put a fashion show for him back at home, and after she's done she wants Cain to do the same. Just then Sylvie comes to save the day, and tells Cain that Tamanis has called for him. Inside his shop Cain is amazed to see that the board looks exactly like the reversey game he imagined. He then proceeds to explain the rules to him by playing the game. Tamanis thinks that this game will become an instant hit. Cain suggests that they make one more fancier version for nobles. He asks to create 50 of the noble versions, and a 1,000 regular versions. Tamanis is worried about the production cost, but Cain smashes 5 more gold coins on the table like a typical rich MC, and Tamanis promises that he will do his best. They then sign a contract in front of the god of commerce to patent the product, so that no one will be able to reproduce it for the next 3 years. The prototype disappears and the contract is successfully formed. Cain makes one more request to make a top-notch version for the royal family, and they are amazed by his connections, but Cain thinks that they don't even know half of the story and the gods are probably enjoying the game with the prototype they built. When he reaches back home, it's already time for his debut at the royal capital. On the way Garm is worried that Cain's harem may increase after the debut ceremony, but Cain tells him he has no plans to take in human girls anymore. They reach the royal capital. Cain sees the fatso noble and his sons but chooses to ignore them. They then meet his fiancée Silk and her father. Cain compliments on her dress, and her father roasts Garm for raising such a playboy. While Cain mentions he learned the skill by practicing on his sister. Later the king arrives with his family. Cain compliments Tellus, making her blush, and Garm gets roasted by the king as well. Cain tries to calm the king down, and presents him with his reversey game. He invites Cain to meet him later to play with him, and he also needs some tips from Cain to become a playboy himself. As they leave, Garm is amazed, and wonders when did his son become such a business tycoon, and a womanizer. He is proud, and thinks that he has nothing left to teach him. After that, Silk comes to hang out with Cain. She wants to be the top girl in his harem, so she tries to develop a plot with him, but just then the sons of the fatso noble interrupt them. The elder son Habit greets Silk, and thinks he may receive a special greeting from her, but she's mad that he interrupted her plot development with Cain, so she greets him but doesn't say a word. Cain introduces himself as Baron Cain, but they think he's the son of a baron, and tells him that he should have addressed them as masters. They ask him to apologize, but Cain asks them to apologize as they upset Silk. The stupid sons of Fatso Noble are infuriated and challenge him to a fight. Outside in the field, as they prepare for the fight, Silk, being a drama queen, leaves no opportunity to hug Cain and tells that she is so worried. The battle starts, and they try to attack them with their spell, but it is so weak that even Silk could dodge it. She couldn't take any more of their nonsense, so she tells them that he's not the son of Baron but actually Baron himself, who defeated 30 orcs to save her and the princess. They shit their pants after learning that and leaves. Silk realizes that he could have corrected them at any point, but he wanted to experience how an overpowered MC pretends to be the weakest. Cain realizes that he is busted, and Silk tells him that she'll keep this secret if he goes on a date with her, but just then Tellus arrives and asks about the secret. Cain stops Silk from speaking, and Tellus assumes that they had plot development and threatens to inform Duke about it. Silk reveals about their date plan, and Tellus feels left out, so she also wants to go on a date with him. He agrees with her, but just then the king arrives and tells him they will have a long man-to-man talk. Later they play the game of Reversi, and the king wants this game to be a secret, but Cain wants to share it with the whole kingdom. After that, the Duke and King inquires about his date with their daughters, and warns him not to make them grandfather so soon. This is where the video ends. Thanks for watching and see you in the next part.